one way or another, they're gonna try to divide us all. One way or another.
My name is Gladys Blake Muhammad. Let me say that, okay. My mother and father came to South Bend in the early 40s, as many people from the South came to South Bend to the North looking for a job, and he was gonna work at Studebakers. And he had to find a place to live. And so the first place that my father looked, well, this is where African Americans could stay in South Bend, Indiana, is on the west side and the far west side of South Bend. And the far west side was called the Lake, LaSalle Park area. And we moved to my father called them war homes. They were brick cinder block projects that Black people had to live in. But we lived there, and it was in the area close to the city dump. The name of the dump was Becks Lake Dump. The big thing is everybody knew each other. There weren't strangers in that neighborhood.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up on what many would term the lake. Actually, the address was 3245 West Washington Avenue, what we term the projects.
Obviously, it's not a lake that you would go to and set out on the beaches and that kind of thing. It was the lake. It was a dump, a swamp, and that's where we're from.
Where did Charles Black live?
Charles lived right, I can separate it. He was about 2 rows down from where I stayed at. We became more like brothers.
I knew his mother and his father and his sisters and his brothers.
Charles Black and I, and along with a host of other people, George Jones, and the list goes on and on, we lived in the block homes that were actually here where the center is sitting.
A total feel of family. Not only the people that lived in your house, but people that lived in the neighborhood. I could go to the house of the Scanias or the Leonards or the Kennedys, and I could eat out of their house just like they ate out of our house.
Everybody was like wonderful human beings. And people that was poor, you helped them. That was as simple as that. And they didn't have any shoes, your mama make you give me your shoes. It was just that's how that neighborhood was growing up in LaSalle Park.
So we had it tough, but we didn't give up. And I think it had a lot to do with the character, the building of character. And we were determined to make it. We didn't wallow in our sorrows. We were determined to make it, determined to improve ourselves. And Charles Black and his family, they were just like the rest of us. Strong people, caring people, helping people. We all went to church. It was mandatory. And then, we got to the point where the block homes became so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Cold.
Cold, yeah.
Cold.
Not only cold, but unlivable, I'll just say that. That they had to tear them down. So we all had to find places elsewhere in LaSalle Park, mainly to live.
1968 was a time of turbulence across the whole country. The civil rights movement was at the height. Unfortunately, Martin Luther King was killed in April of 1968. Bobby Kennedy was killed later that same year. There was turbulence going on across the country, Chicago, California, New York, South Bend.
They had a little riot, okay? And Charles Black, Melvin Fox, Charles Martin, all the matriarchs, they were there to keep peace, And they got put in jail. Never been to jail, you understand what I'm saying? But he learned, being inside that jail, seeing people in jail, that they needed more Black males out in that community to step up and be a leader.
Like, I was a justice person, okay? I wanted equal justice. I wanted to be treated like anybody else. And when I felt that people weren't doing that, I always spoke out. And we began to have meetings, okay, once they cleaned up that dump, what was they gonna put on the dump? And we, young kids, I was young at the time, probably 19 or so, and Lynn Coleman, he was younger than I, and the preachers there, we said, okay, what is the plan to do with this dump once you clean it up? And we said, we need a park. We need a park like other people in the city had a park. We had Howard Park and Potawatomi Park, Newman Center. And there was a man named Mr. Paul Boehm, B-O-H-E-M, Paul Boehm or something like that. He was the director of the Parks Department. And he came and met with us, and we got all the preachers and everybody involved. And we had a lot of meetings with him to talk about, okay, we need a park out here in LaSalle Park, a real park where you can play at, where you got swings and things instead of dirt. We needed a real park that we could be proud of.
One of my blessings is that the center came along because it gave us an opportunity to have a place to hang out at. And so I could go to the center and I could be around Charles Black and we could laugh and talk and joke and that kind of thing. And I could see what he was trying to do as a man, as a father. You know, I could spend some time around, people like Tutter Thomas or people that was older than me that I knew of, but I didn't have an opportunity to connect with. And because the center was there, we were there every day. It gave me an opportunity to be in the presence of these guys.
The center was a major part of people coming out of LaSalle Park and going on and becoming successful. I can remember when Paul Boehm, who used to be the executive director for South Bend Parks and Recreation, Paul Boehm and Bob Goodrich, who was his assistant, had a scholarship program. And for those who work for the recreation department, such as myself, they helped pay for our undergrad degrees. And so we had a lot of strong people, a lot of people with good character who reached out and helped a lot of the children in this area.
Black was a few years older than me. If he was here, I'd call him an old man, but he was a few years older than me. Charles was an exceptional athlete.
He was an athlete, all-star state. He was a blue chip player. He was the boxcar.
He was Boxcar Black.
Called him Boxcar because he was a big boy, heavy. And he ran around with Charles Martin. And again, Lynn Coleman, Carlos Phillips. And they were young, and they were out there just trying to find out who they were and which way they should go. So he had good role models, good people.
But I really got to know him once the center opened. He began to work at the center part-time and then full-time and then assistant director and that kind of thing. We were in an organization together, LaSalle Athletic and Action Program, LAP, that was started by Charles Martin and Black and a few others. And I was fortunate enough to join that organization as one of the younger members of it. And we just became buddies. We attended church together, Greater Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. And so we worshiped together, we laughed together, we cried together, and he was like a big brother. He was an incredible man.
And we used to meet in the recreation center here.
And you called it LAP?
It's called LAP, LaSalle Athletic and Action Program, LAAP. We even had jackets. We had Letterman jackets.
They wore dashikis.
Yeah, we wore dashikis. It was about 25, 30 of us. But all of us came back to the community. We met here at the center. We worked with the children, and we helped as many children as we could.
He had a Crown Royal bag. I don't know if Crown Royal, the liquor, and the bottle actually comes in a purple bag, right, with a gold string on it. Charles would have that bag full of change, quarters and nickels and dimes. So if kids came up to him that needed money for lunch or whatever, he could go in that bag and give those kids money. And he had it tied on his belt.
When I see other young men that Charles affected that are adults now, they say, that those were really true men that made an impact in their lives,
Charles felt it because it came from his background. His father had lung cancer, couldn't work. His stepmother cleaned houses and everything. So he knew what hard times were. So he felt that. He felt the pain for those children in LaSalle home. I don't think we're going to get that again.
Not only was Charles assistant director at the LaSalle Center at the time, but he also worked security, both at Harrison School, and then he transferred from Harrison to Clay High School. And so he was always interacting with kids, from the school corporation during the daytime to the center at night. And Charles's life was to make sure that he provided for kids. He coached basketball teams. And so his teams would actually go play basketball. And after the game, he would take their uniforms home. And he and his wife would clean their uniforms so they'd be ready to go for the next game. He was just an incredible giving guy.
And it did affect the family life somewhat, but he worked 2 jobs. He worked so hard. He had a job for LaSalle Center kids, and he had a job for his family. We did not lack anywhere, but thank God for Teachers Credit Union. We had 2 accounts, one for LaSalle Homes and one for my family.
He was just a giving person. That was just him. They call him a big teddy bear. He just loved everybody, and that was just his human nature, was to give back and to do what needed to be done in our community, and that was take care of kids.
If you have a job that you love doing, you also sacrifice. In other words, you give more than what's expected of you. And if you're doing that, then guess what? The people, the constituents, the folks that you work with, they're also going to see that. So those are the kind of folks that you need, who are willing to make the sacrifice, to go the extra mile.
The renovation and expansion of the Charles Black Center represents one of the largest investments we've made in South Bend Park's history. Certainly the largest one we've made in several decades. It's part of a whole suite of projects that we have, nearly $42 million worth of investments throughout the entire city. These investments are really important to show the neighbors that we care about their community, but also because of the dividends they pay in terms of things like mental and physical health, what it means for education and public safety and ecological integrity and neighborhood improvement and economic impact. These are all drivers we pay attention to when we're doing projects like this. But those can be sometimes kind of words that sound a little nebulous and maybe even like buzzwords. But what's most important is that every piece of the project that you'll see unveiling, from the music studio that we're in now, to the expanded kitchen, to the bike shop, the enlarged gym and workout spaces, the stage, and so on and so forth, all of those were dreamed up by somebody who's been involved with this facility at some point in time. Whether it's people who have worked here or people who are from the neighborhood, people who grew up here. Everything you'll see in this project represents a vision of somebody, a dream of somebody, all the way down to the paint color. So we're excited to be able to deliver on those promises.
Well, I think so much of the city's character comes from the West Side. You know, it's one of the most diverse areas of the city. You have people from different walks of life in neighborhoods that have been here for a very long time. And it's a big part of the future of our city, too. What's great about the kinds of things that happen in the park and in Charles Black Center in particular is that they bring people together. You know, things like the sports programming that goes on, but also things that community groups can now access. All of that kind of thickens the relationships and the ties that make our community a great place. And when I think about the future of the West Side, and I think the destiny of the West Side to continue to really shape the feel and the character of our city, I think about the kinds of things that are going to happen among children and parents who are then going to in turn kind of grow up and raise another generation in that community. And they'll have this place, this facility as a touchstone because of the programming that goes on there, but also just because of the relationships and the memories that are going to be made in this amazing space.